Glass is the last thing I would think of as a material to make armor and weapons from. For sure, a shard of glass is sharp and it can cut deeply, but try parrying or blocking with a pane of glass, and I don't know if you'll have much luck. However, despite this, in the land of Tamriel, people still persist in creating weapons and armor out of glass. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott from Fudge Muppet, and today we are looking into this unique curiosity of the Elder Scrolls universe, where there is this peculiar use of glass in creating some of the strongest armors and weapons available to the warriors of Nirn. Well, the first thing that is going to clear up a lot of the confusion is properly explaining this somewhat misleading term, glass. Glass weapons and armor are not made with the same glass as you would use to make a chapel window or display case. You would know if you have ever smithed yourself a beautiful set of glass armor that it in fact requires a substance called malachite. Now, malachite is in fact a substance not unique to the Elder Scrolls universe, but actually exists in our own real world. Malachite is a mineral that forms at shallow depths within the earth in the oxidizing zone above copper deposits. It precipitates from descending solutions in fractures, caverns, cavities, and the intergranular spaces of porous rock. The very first examples of human malachite mining were over 3,000 years ago in the regions of modern-day Egypt and Israel, and archaeological evidence indicates that the mineral has been mined and smelted to obtain copper in the past, and since then malachite has been used as both an ornamental stone and as a gemstone. So where oh where does the Elder Scrolls malachite differ? Obviously, malachite is not only used for ornaments and jewelry. In Tamriel, they make whole sets of armor out of it, and weapons as well. And why is it called glass? Malachite is described in Elder Scrolls as a rare, volcanic, milky, translucent green crystal, and when it is refined to create glass armor, this green translucence is often enhanced further, giving it a somewhat see-through appearance. Hence, the people of Tamriel colloquially call the substance glass. So that explains why it is called glass, but how is it different to real-world malachite? Well, it's described as similar to ebony, but less durable and more lightweight, and the substance does create weaponry far stronger than iron, steel, elven, orcish, and many of the materials in Tamriel. So it may seem that there really aren't many similarities other than the green color. However, perhaps it's more similar than we think. As in the book Light Armor Forging by Revis Sarvani, it says that smithing glass is incredibly tricky. Hammer blows struck across the grain run the risk of shattering the armor, and that in fact moonstone is needed with the malachite in order to give the armor the right strength. So glass armor is actually, I guess you could call it, an alloy of malachite and moonstone. What is an even more interesting curiosity is that the fact that the High Elves, until recent history, were the only ones who knew how to make it. In the same book, Light Armor Forging, it says, "For centuries, the secret of making elven armor was a closely guarded secret on the Somerset Isle. Then the betrayal of Ulvul Lalaran brought it to the rest of Tamriel. Ulvul was a dark elf slave working the bellows for Nulion, master smith of the Isle from the 5th through the 7th century of the Second Era. When Ulvul escaped, he could think of no greater punishment to mete out his cruel master than to reveal all of his secrets to the world. Thus we came to know that moonstone is the key ingredient in elven armor, and that salt water must be used to quench the hot metal." And a passage from the book Crafting Motifs 1, High Elves by Dr. Alphidia Lupus, written in the Second Era, elaborates on the matter when talking about Altmer armor designs. Metallic items are often accented with a translucent greenish material called glass. This is a sort of jade-like obsidian that elven smiths have learned to work by secretive processes known only to the Altmer. Though rigid enough to take a superb edge when cool, glass can be made malleable enough to assume almost any form, and the High Elves use it extensively on ornamental arms and armor. So in summary, before the Third Era and sort of late Second Era with the escape of Ulvul Lalaran, no one but the Altmer knew how to manipulate Moonstone to create elven armor, and without the knowledge of Moonstone use, the creating of glass armor would have been impossible, since a Moonstone Malachite blend is required to make the armor and weapons functionally strong enough for combat, as indicated in the book Light Armor Forging. But that is not all. Beyond this, if we research further and read Crafting Motif 16, Glass, a book by Vandalian Brightsteel, armorsmith Peerless of Vulkul Guard, we can see that steel often supports the Malachite Moonstone combination. When talking about chest pieces, he says, "The downward pointing chevrons on glass cuirasses evoke the deep muscled chests of great flying creatures, and indeed the chest plates are often adorned with images of eagles, dragons, or cliff racers. They are constructed of leather, steel, and glass, with as much additional glass trim as the buyer can afford." When talking about daggers, a Somerset glass dagger is the finest fighting knife there is. The glass on the glass style dagger is usually confined to the point and edge, with accents on the pommel. The tang, guard, and core of the blade are of steel. When talking about maces, he says, "Glass-style maces and hammers feature elegant but heavy steel heads with glass-tipped studs and spikes. The hafts are often made of dense but flexible wood such as ash, faced with steel langed and ending in a steel roundel heavy enough to partially offset the weight of the head. That enables these long-hafted weapons to be whirled almost like quarterstaves." When talking about shields, he says, "For a shield that is nearly all metal, glass shields are remarkably light, precisely because they're mostly glass plates held in a slender matrix of steel. Two broad glass wings, usually avian-themed, flare out from the central steel ribs to broad, feathered edges." When talking about staves, he says, "A staff in the glass style is many a wizard's proudest possession. The long wooden shaft, sheath in steel langed to protect it while parrying, is simple enough. It's the elaborate winged finial that is the glory of a glass staff. The steel head, often set with large turquoises, unfolds on either side into a pair of exquisite glass wings evoking birds, bats, or dragons. The entire finial seems to glow with inner fire." And when talking about swords, he says, "A glass sword is a cunning combination of steel core and tang with a glass point and edges. The blade may be quite broad near the tip and even feathered with shallow blood gutters. Despite their size, the blades are light, favored by sword fighters for their ease of use and battlefield durability, for a glass sword will hold its edge long after a steel or alloy sword has gone dull." However, as you read through many of the armor descriptions, it seems that glass is often used by itself, strapped onto leather, rather than using steel in addition. But for the weapons, it often seems like steel is required to give the weapon enough durability and weight. It seems that the sharpness of glass is what is really prized, not unlike normal glass. However, once again, some of the armor and weapons from Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion and Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind look like they are far more purely glass. However, remember that the glass component is mostly malachite, but with the addition of Moonstone to make it strong enough. It is kind of similar to how the creation of bronze works. Copper by itself just isn't hard enough for weapons or armor, so then metals like tin are added into the mix, and with that combo, you get bronze, a material hard enough to make weapons and armor from. So upon further inspection, it seems like a lot more goes into glass armor and weapons than meets the eye. So perhaps malachite is a lot more like earth malachite than we thought, evidenced by its dependency on substances like moonstone and the fact that the core of the weapons are usually made of steel. But on the other hand, it does seem to have some more fantastical properties than the malachite of the real world. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I have helped you understand glass weapons and armor a little bit more and helped clear up any of your queries concerning its confusing name. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more Elder Scrolls content, as well as content for upcoming games like The Outer Worlds and Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, and of course, you can't forget Elder Scrolls 6, but who knows when that's coming. Thanks again. Social media links are in the description. My name is Scott, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.